kind of search for truth may be slightly different. A scientific truth is equally a part of the greater truth. And therefore, science is not different from spirituality because science itself is part of the effort of human consciousness to comprehend reality. Though its limitations are widely known, but spirituality reminds science that you must not brag of all the truth. There are truths and truths which human mind can really comprehend, provided it opens its eyes. I think Ritambhara are doing a great job, and I feel myself to be greatly honored to be amongst you. Especially, I'm eager to listen to Yogi Rajji on this occasion. And equally, I'm grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you. Sir, your voice is not audible, Professor Raj.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now it is audible. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Your every words are penetrating in our deep layers of our thoughts and consciousness. Every words you uttered, actually, it's a deeper philosophy in the means of human consciousness. As you talked about how it is universe, and when you talked about yoga as it in its true meaning. Yes, it is true. It is not just a physical practices like asana or pranayama for the prana, but it is much, much deeper, as Upanishad says, 16 layers of consciousness. So you are truly right, sir. You have given a very nice approach and insight so that we can truly walk over all those paths which is shown by Upanishad, Vedas, and whatever you concluded, sir. And as per Ritanvishi is concerned, we are truly following whatever you said. We are not actually focusing on the physical practices or physical meaning of health, but yes, we are focusing on real the development of small or limited consciousness to the higher consciousness. So, in these words, I'm really very, very thankful for your words, sir. And I always like to be blessed by you. Our whole team would like to blessed by you always, sir.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Now I would like to request our editor in chief, Dr. Saroj Kantakar, very beloved, respected Sarojji, please come and enlighten us. Sarojji, are you there?
Yes, yes. My namaskar to my revered teacher, Pradhan sir, and all the audiences and the revered speakers and the chair. I think I am audible with this thing.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, this Ritambhara is the effort to fill with uh, the spiritual knowledge, higher knowledge, or transcendental knowledge. So, in that sense, Ritambhara, um, this association of all people with the Ritambhara committee, Ritambhara magazine, and the exercise for the Ritambhara is towards a journey towards transcendental truth or Satya, and the dynamic aspect of it, that is Rita. So, in that sense, we are going towards uh, a higher truth and its working, its functions. It function. There are many functions of truth. So it is a phenomenal and transcendental. Phenomenal we experience by our sense experiences and our understanding. But when we transcend them, it goes towards sometimes our senses, our mind remains limited, and we go towards the higher level. Then if the mind and senses are getting limited and we are going to higher, by what organ, what by which of these instruments we are experiencing the higher truth. That is a question mark we have to search for, because everything we are understanding with the mind and everything we are experiencing with the sense organs. So when we, the transcendental truth is experienced, it may, and it cannot be experienced by the limited sense organs and mind, then it must be experienced by something else. And that something else is there are many levels of that, and Sri Aravinda describes it, that there are levels towards the supermind, and Sarah has already explained, indicated towards that. When somebody achieves that supermanhood, then at that moment, at that stage, it can be understood. Yoga Sutra defines in the same context that Ritambhara Tatra Pragya, that where mind, a state of mind can be obtained in the meditative practices, through meditative practices, where one may have the highest knowledge. It may be knowledge of Satya or Ruta in its transcendental sense, and that also about the higher order of reality. And as described in the Yoga Sutra, Adhyaya 1 and Sutra 48 and extended to 49. Uh, Maharshi Vyasa, when made this Bhashya, he said that Nacha Tatra Viparjyasa Jnana Gandhopi Asti iti, means um, in that state of knowledge, in that knowledge, not even an iota of mistake or error or wrong things happens. So it is the perfect knowledge. And Rutambhara stands for the state of mind to realize the transcendental truth, and also error free and mistaken free. It is always. So it is clear, translucent, and uh, when it becomes transcendental. Towards that, to understand that, to realize that effort we are giving, and we are making we are just putting a small step towards that journey, and as a small step towards the divine knowledge and a generation of that state of mind where non-sensory, non-mental knowledge can be gained. Looking at these things, we invited the articles, and articles means through articles the thought and the effort of other people to go to higher level in agnostic sense. So those articles we have kept in this our volume of this Ritambhara in this issue. They are of the diverse nature. Um, some of them are highlighting on the transcendental sense, and some of them the peripheral things, because whenever we are making the transcendental journey towards a transcendental reality, at the same time we have to keep the semblance of our phenomenal requirements, our ordinary everyday requirement. So if we, all these aspects of our life, of our everyday life, will be integrated in such a way that it can support our yogic practices, then only we can make progress towards the transcendental experiences. So for this reason, there are so many subject matter, um, like health issues, like our well-being, overall well-being by Ayurveda, Vastu, and other topics, small topics which can be comprehended by all readers. We have taken that, but taken all those things because they are supporting in some way or other to the spiritual journey. If something is not supporting to the spiritual aspects, spiritual journey, the motto of the Ritambhara, then we are not taking of that aspect. So we are always appreciating and taking of those thoughts of the people, our participants, and the guests in such a way that such all the thoughts, all their journey should go be directed, should go to or be directed towards the spirituality or the transcendental reality. As commonly believed, spiritual quotient or SQ is not exclusive to or abnegation of the emotional quotient or EQ. Sarah has already pointed out that emotion or bhakti is most important also for the ordinary people to make the first step towards the divine. First, this emotion uh, appears in ordinary level in our family life with our to our friends, our teachers, our parents, and then it goes towards the divinity. So when somebody goes towards the divine, the first thing is the bhakti, the honor, the appreciation towards parents and the guru, because the divine descends through guru, through the teachers, through the parents, and to from that is why from in the ladder at the lower rung or at the some higher rung, we have to approach to high to the divinity, and then the divine, the abstract will be concrete to us in our realization. So for this reason, Madhura Bhava or Bhakti of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are appreciated and understood in their proper place, because it generates the right emotion and it is essential for to lead to the divine. It may not lead to the highest state in yoga, but as yoga appreciates that Ishwara Pranidhana in the first chapter, that it is most important in some way in the middle to lead to the higher. Uh, we appropriate kind of bhakti or appropriate kind of jnana are beneficial in the path of yoga. Hence, emotional articles, poetry, stories, which are helpful to the higher tests of rasas, are allowed in this, are kept, are selected for this Ritambhara magazine. This may, in this context, that these may awake and streamline the emotion in the higher way and may not block its flow in the wrong directions. We have taken a note of the Sanatana culture in one of the main as one of the main focuses of Ritambhara. Repetition of Sanatana culture is not made here actually, but some repetitions are required. That is why one article on Gayatri we have taken. Repetition of any aspect of the culture may bring reinforcement. For this reason, we take something which is already there and known, but in a new direction we have taken it. It can be fruitful if repetition will be presentative with a creative spirit and contextualized. Instead of mere repetition, blind appreciation, or opportunistic claims, it is required to make a drive for comparative, critical, and contextual analysis of the ancient wisdom of the Sanatana culture. And Ritambhara is committed to this. It is important to appreciate yoga not only for seizing the modifications of the mind, chitta vritti nirodha, but also for skillful actions that may not lead to bondage, and keeping semblance in the in all aspects of life, that is samatvam. That is why we may take off simultaneously that yoga is chitta vritti nirodha and yoga is karma sukausalam, and at the same time yoga is samatvam. This is the teaching from my sir, Robert sir, Pran sir. So we have to take all aspects, so phenomenal and transcendental, spiritual and material, everything, so that we can make a progress, and that will be the material progress and spiritual progress. To interpret the same in the context of the worldwide pandemic now, one may we should be skillful live to avoid it and maintain balanced life and be cheerful. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my ideas and share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kar. And I know because of you, we are in a right path of the progress of this magazine. Your selections for the articles, your motivations, and your guidance is always important for us, and that's why we could make our magazines in a proper way. This is the third magazine we are publishing, and this is the first international conference we are doing with the Ritambhara stage. And one very interesting thing that what Professor Saroj put in our mind, that it is very important that yoga should be pragmatic. It should not be just a concept for just intellectual understandings, but it should be also for our physical health, for our practical approaches to our social health, our mental health, and many other areas in which we can really work on. So, by this magazine, we are actually moving in a various varieties of directions. And consciousness, what already Professor Pradhan has explained, it is there in every each and every part, every being, every object, subjects, everywhere. So a stone has a consciousness, our functions have a consciousness, our thoughts have a consciousness. Everything, whatever we do, whatever we not do, what is there, what is not there, everything is consciousness. In that part, every each and every part become as equally importance. And one very important part is that as we concluded different types of articles in this magazine, so it is very interesting to know how are the practical and pragmatic ways in which we can really work with our human consciousness. And there would be nice to see how human consciousness can work in a vividly in a varieties of areas where we are blessed of. And in that areas, I really remember Dr. Nilima Mehto. She's although professor in chemistry, is working in a chemistry, but her mind is always working what is the missing link from the previous history, what we can learn from our previous history, and what we can include those things in our modern science, modern time. And we have many times enlightened by her nice speeches, nice talking about her very broad view, how to take the things in a practical life, how we use varieties of herbs, varieties of things nearby us, and what are the ways in which we really understand the truth and go to the path of the enlightenment. So I really invite Dr. Nilima Mehto, please enlighten us with your speech. Dr. Nilima, please unmute. We cannot listen you. Yeah.
Yes, I can unmute now. Now if I have to share the screen.
So for
The
sharing the
host
screen,
is,
I think the
it is
host.
disabled.
Wait. Shashank, if you're there, please help Dr. Nilima to share the screen.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, I have given you the permission, so you can try once again, please.
Is it coming?
Right. We can see it, ma'am.
Okay. So can I speak in English, or if necessary I can speak in Hindi?
Whatever language you prefer,
Okay, it
we
is
can both
possible.
understand Hindi or English, so it's
Okay.
okay to you.
Okay. So I was asked to give a talk on endocrine system and behavioral health. So this was very narrowed down in the series of talk that could be included in consciousness and spirituality. So this is just a little bit of touch from chemistry point of view. I could arrange, and I'm going to present and give you a little talk. I work as assistant professor in Yangnam University in the School of Chemical Engineering. So here you can see the picture of my campus, and it is very beautiful during these autumn days. And this long, tall building is library, and my department is somewhere on the left side. So let us begin with the talk because I'm given only 15 minutes, so I will be winding up in 15 minutes. So to begin with this series, I would like you to imagine about how is our daily life, right from the beginning of the morning when we start our day, it starts with a thought, either in the form of a single thought or some multiple thought or set of thoughts, and sometimes it is prolonged series of thoughts. So, beginning of our day, since we are awake, and awakening is constituted, or you can say that you become alive when your thoughts start running across your mind. Sometimes it is very puzzle, sometimes it is organized, sometimes it is very confusing, and sometimes it is very relieving too. So continuously your mind asks questions, and continuously your mind also gives answer to the same thoughts. So sometimes it is very puzzling, and all of you might have thought about this. What is the nature of the thoughts? Is it a chemical structure, some chemistry, some chemical bonds, some chemical compounds that is the structure of the thought, or some physical shape of the thought, or it is some colored material that comes to your mind? So have you ever wondered that do your thoughts contain some colors or some structures, some shapes, or some kind of brightness and dullness? So, what is the structure of the thought? What is the physical existence of the thought? Or it is some kind of energy that interacts with you and enters in your mind and then passes on. Some kind of thoughts enter into your brain and exist for some flash of seconds and then disappear. And some thoughts, they stay inside your mind for some couple of minutes to hours, to through entire day or entire week or entire month or entire year or number of years as well. So when it is very small span of time, the thought, the flash of thought, it enters and exits, what kind of chemistry is happening there, and or what kind of physicochemistry is happening there, or some kind of energy interplay is happening there. But the thoughts which stay in your mind for some longer duration, so it becomes a part of your thinking, uh, a channelized system of thoughts, a channelized system of interplay of chemistry inside your brain. And when it is even for a longer duration like a day, it interplays with your emotions, that can be seen in terms of your action, or in terms of your facial expression, or in terms of your behavioral certain patterns. And sometimes when keep on thinking on the same thoughts, it becomes part of your behavior and personality, and it becomes part of your thinking pattern, or it can be called as your psyche or psychology. So it can be studied also when it is prolonged through the longer duration. And it is also constituted that it can be diagnosed from your own pattern of behaviors or pattern of habits. So habit retains, because habit is a very magical word. If you remove h, a bit remains. And if you remove the second letter a, it constitutes bit remains. And if you also remove b, then it remains like it remains. So habit is the prolonged sustenance of a particular kind of thought that has made a permanent existence or permanent seat inside your brain, that keeps on recurring, that makes your personality. So now we will try to understand what is happening inside your mind. So I'll be keeping the things very simple so that everybody can understand. So just do not be afraid of this complicated picture, that is the brain and the nervous system. It is taken from a high school book, and it is very simple to understand the brain. But I'll give you some numbers that will amaze you. The brain alone harbors some 100 billion neurons. Neuron is a single nerve cell, that here it is shown in the right hand side of the slide. The single nerve cell is called a neuron. And it is, some of the scientists, they also claim that brain harbors some, not 100 billion but 86 billion neurons. 100 or 86, it is still a huge number, it is 1000 times a million. So a nerve cell has a central body, that is having a nucleus, and then a long tube-like structure or cable, and at the end there is the nerve ending is called synapse. The synapse have a small packet containing chemical that is called neurotransmitter, and it is called synaptic vesicle. So when synaptic vesicle burst, the chemical inside the neuron, it released to the another neuron cell, and it is received and then passed on to the next neuron cell. So that's how the neurotransmitters are passed on from one cell to another, and that's how the message and the signals are passed on. So what is the nature of these signals? These are electrochemical in nature, and electrical pulses are generated by the fine balance of sodium and potassium ions. So sodium and potassium ions in our body, it just keep on moving inside and outside of this long axon. This long cable-like structure is called axon, and on the surface of the axon, that membrane of the axon, they keep on moving and it generates the electrical pulse and it keeps on moving in the forward direction. There are some methods and some process how it takes place. I'm not going into that detail. Rather, I'm going into some another important detail, that a single brain alone, it harbors about 100 billion neurons, and every neuron, it has on an average 7,000 synapses. Synapses means nerve endings. So every nerve with 7,000 synapses, it coordinates with hundreds and thousands of body cells, which may be a part of a tissue, or that tissue can be a part of the organ, and organ can be the part of organ system. So in the next slide, we see that there is in the right hand side, it is shown how the nerve impulses are transmitted through these electrical impulses, and electrical impulses are generated by electrochemical uh, interplay of sodium and potassium ions. So it is completely chemistry. And here in the inset of the picture, you can see the neurotransmitters are released. And what are the neurotransmitters? We will be knowing it in very shortly. And in the left hand side, this is a kind of very specific kind of nerve cell, which is called Purkinje cell. Purkinje cell have almost 200,000 synapses. These are very extended structures, and Purkinje is the scientist who actually isolated this single nerve cell, and it was an amazing thing. This is a drawing actually, and while isolating the nerve cell is not an easy job, and staining it and taking the picture is another challenge. So, but people are diagnosing it. We are going to see the another aspect of this neuron and nervous system. So when our thoughts are generated, our moods are generated, our psyche is generated, and prolonged thinking pattern generates our behavior. So this is a complicated interplay of the neurons and neurotransmitters. And neurons and neurotransmitters control, govern every single aspect of our body functions as well as our thought process. So our body functions has two kinds of functions. One which is voluntary, and second which is involuntary. Voluntary processes are those processes which are under control of our will. We can control it, like our respond to a stimulus. How do we respond? And our eating, our drinking, our movement, our locomotion, and sometimes our behavior, that is under our will. But the involuntary actions are those which we cannot control, such as breathing, heartbeat, and circulation of the blood, and the endocrine system, the functioning of endocrine system, uh, and digestion, aging, growth. So these kind of functions we cannot control. These are automatic and controlled by the central nervous system. The central nervous system has brain and the spinal cord. Now the question arises, how the here you can see this the different functioning of our organ systems, which constitutes skeletal system, nervous system, muscular system, endocrine, cardiovascular, integumentary system. So these are all coordinated with the nervous system in a very complicated manner, and how the chemicals are released from one part of the neuron to another part of the neuron, this is largely governed by our endocrine system. So endocrine system releases hormones, the neurotransmitter or the complicated molecule inside the endocrine system, which is generated in a very small quantity, or maybe you can say some micro quantity or nano quantity, nanogram. or